Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Just a few minutes late today. This podcast, of course, as you can tell by my title, covers the national champions. Great show for you today. As you can tell by the title, Weekend at the Deans. He is very much alive. No Bernie, but it was a big weekend in Columbus at the WAC on campus for visitors. Bill has spent the better part of the last 48 hours or so updating you guys. So this will be kind of a little bit more pitch it forward, but I think you will find it interesting. And then we've got, of course, Mark Porter here to provide his unique brand of wit and wisdom. I copied that from an old radio show. But first thing I got to tell you guys about is Ridge Wallet. I'm telling you, man, we got some cool products coming for you guys, and this one is a consistent one, and you can see why. Look at that. That's my wallet right there. Think you're taking that? No chance. Not a chance, Lance Ito. Look, over 100,000 five-star reviews. You ever lose your wallet? It's the worst. The Ridge has an AirTag attachment. You'll always know exactly where it is before panic mode kicks in. It's got this new technology, RFID blocking technology. Did you know that you can get digitally pickpocketed now? Not with this, though. This thing's fire. It's unique, slim, modern, holds up to 12 cards plus cash. It's not the George Costanza wallet that hurts your back after a while. You end up sitting with a lean. None of that stuff. And right now, just in time for Father's Day, Ridge is having a huge sale. 40% off your order at ridge.com/Bucknuts. Ridge.com/Bucknuts to find the perfect gift for dad or yourself. When you check out, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them Bucknuts sent you. Give dad the upgrade he deserves this year. And I will tell you for real, I'm a personal endorser of this. It's fantastic. J-Book brought up the good point the other day. Sometimes you feel you lose it, you still have it. That's how small it is. All right. Speaking of having it, look at these guys. Look at this crew. The Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, chopping wood. All right. Big weekend in Columbus, Bill. That's why we've called this show Weekend at the Deans, though you are very much alive. Interesting names, man. This is Bill and I do some pregame before the show where I like to get quickly educated. And the more we do this, the less educated I feel, because almost all of the little tricks, not tricks is a bad choice of word, like little indications I used to get during recruiting, and I'd be like, oh, he's coming. Those are toast. That'll come up in this discussion, and I'll point it out. But recruiting, it's a new era. Now, thankfully, as we discussed extensively on yesterday's show, your Buckeyes are handling this era quite well. Not the same, but we're results-oriented here. Bill, you had an article up, most likely to commit for the weekend. We're going to go through those names and then hit some of the others because everybody pretty much knows who they're going after right now. So let's start. And then Mark will kind of come in with the video as we do this. These are guys who were on campus and chatted with the powers that be. The first, and Bill, if you could just kind of introduce each guy, maybe position, where they're from, and then just kind of put their whole recruitment in context. We're going to let the Dean cook here. Breck Kolojay.
Yeah, when you said chopping wood, Dan, I thought you were hearkening back to my days as a woodshop teacher at Dublin High School.
You built a paddle.
At the paddle. That's the guy which I made out of wood.
Yeah.
That was only 40 plus years ago. But anyway.
I'll bet you, Bill, that the dude you paddled remember it like it was yesterday. So let's not go too far down memory lane. But Breck. Now, I imagine that happens to old Breck a lot. It's not Brock. It's Breck Kolojay.
Yeah, Breck is a good one. I think he is one of the more underrated guys as far as Ohio State and ending up at Ohio State and how good he is. I mean, he is really good. He's at IMG. He is originally from Denver, Colorado. In fact, after the Ohio State visit, this weekend on Sunday, Breck flew back to Denver. I think he's about 50 miles outside of Denver. And he had a really good visit at Ohio State. In fact, going into the visit, I felt like Ohio State was at best number 3 or 4. They might have even been a little lower than that. Coming out of the visit, I think Ohio State is in the pole position. Ohio State told him that while he is mainly thought of as an interior lineman, he could play any of the 5 positions. I think he's probably going to end up as guard, but they haven't ruled out center with him. And Tyler Bowen mentioned tackle because he just likes how the kid moves and his feet and all that. Bowen feels Breck could also play tackle if he ends up at Ohio State. Now, I said Ohio State I think is in the pole position, but at this point at least, he's going to take his other 3 scheduled official visits, and they are Miami, Georgia, and Tennessee in that order. So that's a little bit of a gauntlet still to get through. In fact, it's a pretty decent gauntlet to get through. But right now, I like where Ohio State stands with him.
Those are 3 programs that we already know are willing to go head-to-head with Ohio State for big-time recruits if they want them in the bankroll department. Marcus, introduce us to Breck Kolojay.
Bill is correct. He looks like an inside guard here. That's where they have him playing on this tape. You see him in there just getting off the ball and getting up to the second level. These next couple clips, you're going to see him root guys out of the interior there. He's going to be at the guard on the left side. Gap block there. You can see the width on his butt there as he turns around. I think he's a good pencil in for guard, but Bill said he has the feet for tackle. You'll see that in clips, and I don't know if, when he gets to camp, they'll exclusively play him at tackle. But I like what I see so far, so this is a good start, Bill.
Road grader. All right, Bill.
Yeah.
Next up, Mac Sutter. An interesting one because we already have a tight end in the class. I know that they want 2 tight ends in the class, and interestingly enough, their committed tight end, Corbin Fordham. Is that right?
Yeah, he's the committed one.
Right. He was here for this weekend. So that's another thing I don't understand about recruiting now. No one cares if there's another guy in the mix. Now they want to be part of a combo deal. The latest with the Midwest native.
Yeah, you actually touched on something, Dan, that I was, before you even said that, I was going to touch on too. Some people might think, well, you do not want, if a guy's visiting a position, you don't want him around a guy that's already committed to the position. Ohio State doesn't do that. In fact, Ohio State does just the opposite. If they have a commitment visiting and they have another kid that they're targeting visiting, they put them together quite often. And that happened this weekend. Max Sutter and Corbin Fordham spent a lot of time together at Ohio State this past weekend, and it went very well. They feel like they can really complement each other if they both end up at Ohio State. And I talked about Breck and that Ohio State really moved the needle with him. The one kid that they, I think, maybe moved the needle more with, I would say, is Max Sutter. They really moved the needle with him. I think he was going into the visit. In fact, I know he was in Alabama, maybe Illinois, staying in state. Definitely Ole Miss was still in the running. But I think right now Ohio State is right up there with Alabama for Max Sutter. It went extremely well this past weekend.
Marcus?
Yeah, I'm going to restart this because first play, to get an idea what he is, they have him flexed out wide as a wide receiver at 6'6", 225. That's pretty impressive. And look how long and thin he looks in the waist. So it looks like there's plenty of room to bulk him up and really make him a true wide tight end that could go in line and block. But you're going to see a receiving tape right here where you're going to see receiving skills. Here he is a quarterback, which, there's multi-dimensional things there you could do, but I'm sure they use him as a wildcat back there. The inline stuff blocking. Yeah. I mean, so add 30 pounds to this kid, which, it looks like there's plenty of room to do that. And you may have a special Y that can block and get down the seam. And that's really impressive for a kid that big to get down the seam like that against so-called defensive backs. I mean, boy, the competition I'm not familiar with, but again, these are the kids, Bill, that I can't wait to see a bunch of these kids at camp next week because I feel like the dean has definitely outpaced me with the out-of-state kids. And he's, like you said, he's bringing up names, and there's new guys on campus that the MO we had from last year's camp, Bill and I saw a bunch of kids, but fresh stock. It's going to be a big week. So, yeah.
Boy, that's a position that has changed so much over time, tight end. It means a lot more than it did before. It used to be tight end was basically most athletic.
It was basically the poobah.
Yeah.
Now it's some freakish 6'6" kid that's like a hybrid basketball player. I don't even know if they recruit football players. It's just tight end's a basketball player now.
It used to be the biggest kid on the team who could catch a ball. You know what I mean? And by the way, number one request of every Pee Wee lineman is to play tight end until you tell them, dude, this is Pee Wee football. We're not running the run and shoot here. You're going to be a blocker. Anyway, so they look great at tight end. That's impressive. All right, Bill. Aaron Thomas. Who is he? Why was he lounging out on a couch with a football?
Well, he is a huge offensive lineman from Arizona. And Ohio State already has a really good offensive lineman in the class, Tucker Smith, who is another guy I think is really underrated. Tucker Smith's a really good football player. He is, of course, committed to Ohio State earlier this spring. But Aaron Thomas is a guy that I could see joining Tucker and Sam Greer and Evan Riley. I could see Thomas joining those guys. He had a really good visit, Thomas did this weekend. He's going to Florida State, though, this coming weekend. He also has Texas June 13th. But the school right now that I think is the biggest challenger at Ohio State for Thomas is Texas A&M, whom he is visiting June 20 to June 22nd. We'll see if he takes all those visits. I'm not convinced that's going to happen, but right now they are all scheduled, and that is his plan. So we'll see. But Ohio State definitely did well with Aaron Thomas. He was very impressed.
Back to Arizona, an emerging over the past decade, an emerging football hotbed, at least for some prospects. They've gotten some really good ones out of there. Marcus?
Yeah. In contrast to the guard we just watched, this is a long tackle body that he looks almost more like the tight end we watched in the last clip. Look how long and lean he is there. And if you're saying he's 290 pounds and he looks this lean, I mean, that is as flat of a belly or a profile, at least on film. And he has some strength to go with it here in the feet. So I think you're looking at another possible left tackle here with these feet.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case right tackle. But, the body styles we're seeing come across this tape are definitely to fill a whole room, like a wide receiver room. You got some short, some tall. You're going to have some guards, some true centers, and some true left tackles with feet. Some of these left tackles I noticed that we've looked at lately, they're light, and, they might be kids you're taking in to groom because you might have to buy some tight end bodies and stack them in with some of these guard bodies, but definitely like where the new guy's head's at.
No doubt. That was impressive. He's also, if you look at the picture, he's got still kind of a baby face, which I like on my linemen, meaning looks like they can hold a little bit of weight, and he's also hasn't totally like thinned out to his strength yet. So there's only so many dudes like I say, it's all the time. They made a movie called The Blind Side. Because there aren't that many dudes like this on the earth, so they become a priority. Here's another priority, Bill. Jake Kruel, Kreul, Jake. That's for Mark. How did it go?
First I got to say, who else has the video on their podcasts like Mark has? And I would say probably nobody. And I know nobody has then the expertise that Mark, being a former college football player, has. I really think it's great that we can talk about these kids, and Mark put up these guys' videos right now and then talk about them. But
we aim to please here, Bill. We aim to please. Go ahead.
Yes, we do.
We can spend the rest of the time complimenting each other. It feels good.
I like it. That's actually, shockingly, that's my favorite part of the show. Go ahead, Bill.
So, Bill, thank you. I feel better this morning.
Jake Kruel. Yeah, he is another outstanding guy out of Bradenton IMG. He is a really good football player as well. He is an edge defensive end guy, and his visit, he made the trip up basically with his fellow teammate, Breck Kolojay. And if I was going to say Kolojay is a guy that would be high likelihood to end up at Ohio State, I would say that it's a little bit less with Kurel, but not much. Kurel had a really good visit. He still has official visits, though, to go to Florida. They would certainly love to keep him in state and beat Ohio State for him. And then Texas and Oklahoma. My gut feeling right now is he probably will take those visits, would be my gut feeling on him.
Bill, I don't want to put you on the spot here. Do you know where he's from originally?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question.
Because when you say Florida, I get a little – because it's IMG, and guys from IMG literally travel the world and elsewhere. For those of you who are Spinal Tap fans, they'll go anywhere. And I don't feel –
I know that previously he was at Orlando Bishop Moore High School, so I assume
he's Floridian. Okay,
he's a Floridian. At least he is partway.
Good deal. Let's bring him up. Jake Kurel, Marcus.
Yeah, rockets in shoes and get off, and then the power over to the tackle. I mean,
yikes!
Bring all that in one play.
Yikes!
Show me your power. There's going to play a couple plays here where he does that bend, the hoop drill, where you see him kind of try to run sideways like the Matrix. He does a little bit of that. He's definitely giving me an edge rusher. Look at the move. He just went inside of that guy, like he almost went into the Matrix, went across his face, and then here's like that little dip and bend. This is a kid with special pass rush moves built in, like where he's got a repertoire. While he's sitting around in the summer, he's walking around the house, swinging his hands and swimming chairs and dipping and ripping. Very nice technique. Look at the backward spin move. You don't want to see any more of that. It's bad for quarterbacks. But
you don't have to pay for the rest of that.
Yeah, you're buying someone that can, as they say, get home.
Yeah, that guy, for those of you who are wondering, has werewolf adjacent level talent. He might be a little big to be a werewolf just because it tends to be the outside linebacker hybrid safety types, but wow. I mean, and then you consider the fact he was at IMG, you know what I'm saying? So technique and all that other great, good Lord, that jumped off the plate.
It says 6'3", 230, and that puts him in that tweener, Now, I think Matt Patricia ran that 3-4 where they had those outside linebackers kind of like this, and maybe a defensive end on one side, a Sam that could come off the edge on the other. I'm really interested to see what this defense looks like, not scheme-wise, but how he plays the personnel. I mean, we had this 3 safety thing and linebackers that were safeties and different stuff like that. We'll see how he ties it into his whole thing.
Kind of got some Caden Curry vibes there.
I saw that in the comments, yeah.
Curry, I didn't see that. Curry, maybe not as technically.
A little shifty, yeah.
Yeah.
There were multiple. There were 2 pass rush moves in one clip sometimes.
So you say that don't want to go past that, and that's become my new thing for basketball too. It's the guys who can link the moves together. There are a lot of guys who can use their first move and go. It's the guys who can use their first move and then beat the second guy maybe when they're off balance or they have like a secondary move that are just unstoppable. Like you watch the Bosa's rush, they are literally just like choice. I have a move for that. I got to move for that. I got to move for that. I got to move for that. And you're done. Yeah. Now, comparing anybody to the Bosa's is, I think we found just flat unfair because we've covered recruiting for a long time. I can't think of anybody whose pedigree matches the Bosa's. And I could sit and do a whole show on that. You'd be amazed. And Nick Bosa, look, man, there have been times when Nick Bosa's been walking around. He's been the best defensive player on planet Earth. I believe that. It maybe not be all the time, but he's had nights. So you're talking about very high hopes. All right, I digressed a bit there. All right, Bill, this is a name everybody wants to hear about. But you know what? We're going to make you wait for it. Because I got to tell you guys about Brunt. Brunt is awesome. Let me tell you why. Work boots. Because you look at me and you think, what? Work boots, guy on the guy in the construction site. I had that look to me. Hold on a second. Look at these boots, man. These are sweet. I've gotten compliments on these from like in social settings. Brunt work boots, and then they sent me this, which to me is my number one hat. I love a hat that no one else has, and you've never seen anyone wear that one. I don't even know where North Reading, Mass is, but it's fire. All right, let me tell you about Brunt work boots. Comfortable right out of the box. Most other boots require a significant break-in period. It's not just about work boots. We've also got a full range of high-performance gear built for tough jobs, heavy-duty work pants, weather-resistant jackets, and they look great, even for guys like me who go out pretending to be like the construction worker look. I think it'll work for some of you guys. And they didn't just make a durable work boot. They reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. For Father's Day, not only does Brunt have special discount bundles, but our listeners are also getting $10 off by using code Bucknuts at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, 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 and use code Bucknuts and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. All right, Bill, let's support our recruiting efforts and talk about Luke Waffle. Luke Waffle comes from the Hun School in Princeton, New Jersey, the mean streets. You got to walk down a really long gravel road off an isolated rich street and get to a beautiful campus for the Hun School. First time I ever carried a football in a real game and got my ribs broken. But I digress. Bill, Luke Waffle.
Well, I don't want to be a downer at all, but I do want to just seeing things on the internet and all. There's a lot of it seems like some are even assuming this guy's pretty much a done deal to Ohio State. I would say, whoa, pull back on that a little bit here, people. His visit did go very well, and Ohio State, is very, they love him and he's very interested in Ohio State, but he's got, I would be very surprised if he doesn't take his remaining official visits. And when you look at who he's visiting, he's got Penn State, where his brother Owen Waffle is. He's got USC, which is June 13th to 15th. Penn State is this coming weekend. If anybody hasn't noticed, USC is putting together really good packages for kids this year. They've got the number one class in the country right now. They've got, I believe, 27 commitments. That's not by accident. They're putting together some good packages, and they really want Luke Waffle. And then, not to, if that all that is not enough, he's got Texas, June 20th, 22nd. And we know Texas has got the wherewithal. So while I certainly think Ohio State could end up with Luke Waffle, I would say tone it down a little bit. This one's got a ways to go yet. I really think he's going to go through the process.
Billy Tuesday, I would like to come get brunch at the Cruel Waffle. That sounds like a good marketing approach for Jake Cruel and Luke Waffle. Mark, let's talk about Luke Waffle from the toughest conference in New Jersey. Prep A football. Get after it.
Yeah, it's like I put on this video. I zoned out. I got no idea what you're talking about. I was just staring at him, and I've seen this video 10 times, and I know why Bill is trying to calm down the Bucknutters, because if you don't get this kid, it's going to sting. So much length to development. There's so much more to what you're going to get than what you're seeing on film right now. There's going to be a bigger, stronger version. Dan just said, the Bosas are in a category. This is what a Bosa looked like at some point in time as they grew up. They went through this exact stage Luke Waffle's at, 6'6", 240. Now, what he does from here, and what the Bosas did from 6'6", 240 to get to 280 or wherever they are at, and, all the other stuff. So I'm not comparing him, but if you want someone who has that type of intangibles, this is the guy. It makes sense why there's so much hype about this. We have players like this every year that check all the boxes. You immediately fall in love as a football person, and there's nothing to pick on. It's just like, I was just watching it while you guys were talking, and I almost like got lost in the video, just like Oh, the adjectives that are coming to my brain right now.
Yeah. He's a special football player. There's some guys you just see that you can tell were put on earth to play football. There's a certain quality about them and aggression and just like werewolf-like tendencies. That's a big one right there, Bill. But that's the one that I referred to before the show when Bill and I were talking about it. I think the general sense is, I know Texas is in the mix and they can always write a big check, but I think the general sense is the three teams out in front of Ohio State, Penn State, and USC. With Ohio State, we got the first visit, and I was thinking to myself, man, he's going to go to Penn State and his brother's there. That's the big issue. No, the big issue is that USC has the chance to write the bigger check. And keep in mind, they lost Xavier Griffin. So that's X blank money. And I wanted to say millions there that they put back into the kitty that they can spend on an out-of-state defensive player. So I, too, am watching USC to see if they can keep it together, because as they are building this class, there is some angst in the community out there in regards to the coach. So let's see where we go with that. All right. We're almost done with the dudes here. Another guy, Bill, that we've talked about at length. I had my hopes up for him at one point, and now I don't as much, and that is offensive lineman Felix Ojo.
Yeah, Ohio State still has a shot there. He really likes Ohio State a lot. I just continue to think that the kid is from Texas, Mansfield Lake Ridge High School in Texas. The kid is in my opinion, is as good as any offensive tackle in the country. Texas has the money. I just think it's not impossible, but it's not going to be an easy lift. It's going to be a pretty heavy lift to get him out of Texas.
Is this Felix Ojo?
Nope. I'm sorry. I didn't put that one up yet. It's on my browser.
Right.
Give me a second.
All right. Yeah. I do understand that, though, Bill, because if you just think about it from the Ohio perspective, when we have an offensive lineman in here that we really, really want, we get pretty geeked about it. And I mean, Texas has plenty of prospects there, but I don't know. Felix Ojo is a little bit of a dream at this point. We'll come back to that. Well, you got him?
No, he's ready. Yep. Glitch fixed. Frozen screen fixed. Yeah. The powerful inside road grader guard. I mean, this is that type. And
yeah, mean.
That type of acceleration from a guy that big to, I always tell people it's hard to get someone off their feet. If Dan and I were in a room and I was trying to push him down and knock him off his feet, as old and as decrepit as he is, he'd still be able to move his feet and keep his balance. And I would have to have some type of explosive movement to do that, where when big guys just run up to people with that explosion and just chuck them, it shows you that they're playing with a little bit of a different card of decks than a lot of other big men. So,
yep.
Yeah, and again, there's a couple of guys where you get excited about them and they might be going somewhere else. This is one of those guys.
All right, I save this guy for last just because I've been touting the werewolf-like chatter. This is a fully DNA tested, send it away to Ancestry.com, comes back 100% werewolf. William, tell us about Xavier Griffin.
Yeah, his visit, he made the visit with his mom, and I can tell you without a doubt that his mom and Xavier were impressed. It was a very good visit. He spent a lot of time with James Laurinaitis. How could you not be impressed with that? I think everybody's assuming that not everybody, but a lot of people are thinking he's going to Alabama. The mom has a connection there and all, and I would agree. But I think there are three schools right now that he could end up at: Alabama, Ohio State, and Texas. And Texas, he's got those the next 2 weekends. After Ohio State this past weekend, he is going to Alabama this coming weekend. And then he has Texas June 13th. He also has Florida State. I'd be pretty shocked if he ended up there, but you never know. Like I say, I never like to say never in recruiting. But I think it's Alabama, Ohio State, Texas. And we know that Texas can, if they really want somebody, and I can't imagine that they don't really want Griffin, that they can pull out the NIL package and basically do what they want with it. He is a guy that I think is a little bit of a sleeper as possibly still going to end up at Ohio State. Again, I wouldn't pick Ohio State right now necessarily, but Ohio State is not out of it by any stretch.
Marcus, you got Xavier Griffin on there?
Yeah, and you catch me again. I'm watching it. You can pull it up now. You save these good ones for last, and yeah, you get everyone excited. I'm glad Bill gave us a good report because while I'm watching it, stand up, sit down, whatever you want this guy to do, play in the middle, play on the outside. He has the athletic ability to be a middle linebacker. He has the athletic ability to come off the edge. It's going to be what he grows into. I don't know if he has the pass rush moves of the guy we watched earlier and all that, that stuff is there yet, but he has the same ability, maybe a longer body. I don't see the other guy standing up and running around the way this guy does, but I mean, Bill, we got these fans excited.
Oh.
I hope we can get run through all three guys. These highlight films are so extraordinary and different we're watching. And we've done this a couple times where we watch Bill's top 7 or 8 and you just watch all these kids and it's the
oh my God,
chain, tip of the spear.
I can't watch anymore. That was so werewolfy.
Yeah, they're putting together like a package of a highlight film where you could scholarship them at Sam, Mike, Will, defensive end, where everything you want to see out of those characteristics is all on the same tape and sometimes all in a couple of plays. Yeah, great looking player, Bill.
And by the way, I don't know if you see it. D. Sanchez chimed in, kind of confirming what I said, as she put it. Texas will definitely make a play there. So, again, don't count Texas out.
Man, that is. Oh, look at this.
As Dee said, Texas will definitely make a play with the NIL. And why not? He is tremendous.
I think we know about. Do you think Juliet Pettijohn and D. Sanchez know about offers made to Texas players? My guess is they have a decent understanding of that and maybe have enjoyed it a little bit themselves. Who knows?
And by the way, Xavier hung out this past weekend with Pettijohn, and that went well.
I imagine it did when those guys get together. I wonder if they struggle socially. Not at all. Let's go on a weekend visit. There's a lot to like in college at Ohio State. All right. Let's talk about Jir Perez, Bill. I saw an article written about Florida commitment going to visit Ohio State, and I looked at it like, who is this? And then I saw it was Jir Perez. I'm like, someone tricked me with that headline. That's the pipeline getting interrupted. Of course, Perez, the defensive tackle of considerable girth, who is verbally committed to Florida. I say this routinely, Bill, but we went through this once before, and I contacted you with tears in my eyes because my favorite recruit in the state of Ohio had committed to Florida, and I was crushed. And you told me, Dan, young Dan, don't worry about it. And that was Jerome Baker, and you were right. Will you also assuage my fears about JJ Perez? Although I will say I like Jerome Baker a little better, but I digress.
Yeah, this shouldn't be any. Our Midwest guy, Alan True, who does a great job. I mean, Alan is really, really good, and he does a great job. And he had the story on Bucknuts this morning that Jir Perez is going to take that official visit to Ohio State previously scheduled. And that shouldn't be any shock. If you remember, we talked about that right away, right after Jir Perez on our Tuesday podcast. We talked about, I said those visits that he has scheduled, even though he's committed to Florida, are not canceled. Those are still on the docket, and Ohio State is still on the docket. And as Alan said in his article on Bucknuts this morning, Jir is planning to still take that visit to Ohio State, not this coming weekend, but June 13th to 15th. So no shocker there. And if Ohio State, really wants to go in for Jir, I think they have a very reasonable shot at flipping him.
Mark, nobody knows the staff at Glenville better than yourself. I'm not going to say they've been silent, not that the staff comes out and talks about it, but I think when this kind of stuff happens, they just kind of sit back and let things roll for a little bit. And then my hope is eventually they come in and they're like, hey, dude, let's go over your recruitment again. Your thoughts on that? And then Perez as a prospect. We haven't really seen the big daddy in the middle in Ohio as much. I can't remember. you would know better than anybody. I can't remember a defensive tackle from Ohio that really fit this profile. Like we've had some smaller, bigger guys, bigger tweeners. Can you remember like a 340 inside guy with this kind of talent?
I mean, why do I keep picturing Tony Saragusa in my head? And he's not.
Okay, but we got to go back. That's what I'm saying. You got to go back. It's not that common.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carter from Cleveland JFK was a guy that we took back in the day, and he was just 340 pounds. You know, was he the greatest thing? No, but he served a purpose. Call these guys the tush push eliminators. Like, hey, in college, you can have a couple of these guys, and you could be so specialized that if all they did was stop that type of stuff on third down, you have a player there. Who in the world has been through more recruitments than Ted Gidd Sr. and seen more kids go through the nobody? It's not. I mean, like, we shouldn't even, we should just bow and say, don't worry, he knows what he's doing. If the kid belongs at Ohio State, Coach Ginn will make sure that happens. And we always say it, the Glenville kids always like to go through the entire process. But hey, this is a new age, Dan. You said it at the beginning. All the little tricks and tips you used to have that would tell you if a kid liked the school. When a couple $100,000 comes your way and they say, hey, when you fly on your plane back to Florida, if you don't sign now, this money could disappear because we're bringing in a kid Tuesday that may want it. And if he takes it, you don't get it. That's pressure. That's pressure no kid has ever felt before because it was never there in the past. So let these things play out. If they want Jir Perez, they will get Jir Perez. The guys at Glenville, water just flows over them with stuff like this. Like, oh, he committed? Okay. Gets back, we'll talk to him, and blah blah blah. So stay tuned to this space. The video you're about to pull up, though, Dan, is a bunch of 2027s that I saw on the road, and there's a bunch of them. So Dan will probably stop it, when we get like a little bit of the ways through it here, and we'll give you a taste. When I was on the road, we're looking ahead. We beat some names to death. This is Charles Alexander. He is a 6'4" receiver from Withrow. Chris Henry was at Withrow a year ago or so, maybe 2, and he was wearing number 2. This isn't Chris Henry, but this isn't bad. Okay. Chris Henry's the number 1 receiver in the country. This kid maybe isn't as thin and sudden. He's got a thicker build you can see there. So we'll know about him. There's another 6'4" receiver at Withrow. We're going to only show 2 clips of him coming up in this video. I really put some stuff together here for Charles, but I don't think I usually give people 5 plays. Now, Cincinnati Taft. I took away all their 2026s. They have like 5 kids with the D1 offer. Most impressive linebacker, and I think this might be the Ohio State kid we need to talk about, is Pouncey. He runs really well. He's got a defensive end body. He is every bit of 6'3" or 6'4". So let's pay attention to him as a young guy. You see him in coverage. The defensive ends cover like that. This is a freshman, 2028. That is an extremely quick defensive back coming in and out of breaks for being a freshman. I know Mika and some of the geeks out there that really follow recruiting will be doing some homework on these guys, but there's going to be another one here. Hold on. Lorenzo McMullen, freshman receiver, started varsity, has an awesome highlight tape. Going to be probably a 6'2" or 6'3" kid. Let's say he's like a Peyton Cook as a freshman where might need to get a step faster, but the body for a 2028 kid is off the charts. Want to go one more? Let me see here.
Sure.
Months. Yeah, here we go. This kid just picked up Pitt. This is their quarterback. He is supposedly running 4.4, 4.3. He's not going to be a quarterback in college. He may be a Buckeye type defensive back. He has got the most speed. Now we're going to St. Francis de Sales. There's the defensive tackle, the one clip of him. The premium members will get the gist there. Yeah, I know. But I get excited like you do. I know you do. Like fresh meat for me. Like some of these names are like a dead horse when we bring them up again. Luke Waffle. Oh, we've beaten the Luke Waffle horse to death. I even know. I want the next Luke Waffle. I want the Luke Waffle that the only people that know about him are me, you, and Bill and Mika. So yeah, there you guys go.
We prefer if they're from Ohio, by the way. I don't care. That and recruiting still helps. Bill, quickly tease who you think is going to be here this weekend, and then on Thursday we will really redouble our efforts to get everyone prepped. But there are some guys we need to know about for this weekend. Obviously, it's not going to be like this weekend was. Oh, Bill, I digressed. One guy we should talk about is Savion Hyder, obviously, because I'm going to get those questions and his visit, etc. So can you do that? And then please give us kind of a tease for the weekend ahead.
Yeah, Savion Hyder, as you know, we know, made an official visit to Ohio State this past weekend, and he's going to go through the process. He's a guy, again, one of those guys. I'd be shocked if he didn't go through the process. That was just his first official visit. He's got Georgia this weekend. He's got Michigan June 13th. He's got Tennessee June 20th. Yeah, I really feel like nobody knows for sure or even has a great idea of where he's going to end up. If you had to ask me now, I would say I'd pick the field versus Ohio State. Tennessee can offer him, and they did Sanders, a fantastic package, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Georgia, I know he likes Georgia a lot, and you can't rule out Michigan with they've had some success with running backs up there, production wise. So again, my feeling right now is I would go with the field versus Ohio State at this point for Hyder.
And then this weekend, a little tease.
Well, this weekend is yet another official visit weekend, of course, and they've got some interesting guys coming in. Jet Washington, the safety, and I don't. Right now, I would definitely not pick him as ending up at Ohio State, but we'll see if things change with the official visit this weekend. Favor a key, a guy that is very underrated. Ohio State likes him a lot. Drew Evers from Flower Mound, Texas. He likes Ohio State a lot. He was here at Ohio State this spring, and it went very well. Emmanuel Ruffin is a defensive lineman from Alabama, and he's not quite, in the size category. He definitely isn't as Perez, but he's a pretty big guy. Emmanuel Ruffin is a 6'4", 290-pounder that will make an official visit this weekend to Ohio State. So those are the guys to keep in mind right now. Ruffin, by the way, has got visits to Ohio State this weekend, Alabama at the end, and then Tennessee in between. So that's his visits right now.
If this show told you anything, it's that the guys Ohio State is going after now are big-time recruits with a lot of real interest from a lot of well-heeled programs. So this could go any which way. The idea that anybody knows really what's going on these days, when you can come in at the last second and write someone a check, it changes things. I got one more ad to read, but I'm going to let these guys go. The Dean. See you, brother. And the Grand Poobah. You're the man. All right. I got to tell you guys about Goodr sunglasses. Glasses? I don't even know what that means. Sorry. Goodr sunglasses, as you can see on the scroll there for those of you watching live. Stylish sunnies starting at only $25 a pair. 1-year warranty. 30-day free returns. Lightweight and comfortable. 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce. They've got vibrant colors, sleek styles, pair of Goodrs for every personality. Everyday wear, and active individuals can wear them. You like to run, hike, bike, and more. The thing about Goodrs is high quality and the expense is not out of control. I've told the story a million times. Are you the guy that went to a noon kickoff at the shoe with your new Varnays with a little white thing in the wrap? You woke up the next morning, you ain't getting no Coke. Those glasses are gone. You're out $250. Now, if those were $25, that'd be like 2 drinks. You know what I'm saying? So you wouldn't feel as bad, especially because you didn't have the 2 drinks. Secondly, you can wear another pair because they're cheap and durable and worth the money. If you need a new pair, we are giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. Go to Goodr.com, GOODR.com/Bucknuts. 30-day money-back guarantee, 100% satisfaction. Again, free shipping if you use our code. Trust me, this is a high-quality product, something you need to get your hands on. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Have a good one. Nutters of